to avoid taking notes, feel free to do so. Please post questions as we get along, and a request to all panelists, as in case you would like to share screens at any time, you want to take control and present something, please let me know. So I guess Murphy's Law hit me first. My computer audio switched off suddenly. So anyway, so that's mainly around the structure and duration of how we plan to run it. As just to quickly introduce the panelists, we have 4 industry stalwarts, from different locations joining us today on this panel, and I'd like to request each one to introduce themselves. Kulin, would you like to go first?
Sure. You can hear me, right?
Yep, sure, we can. Yep.
Okay. Hi guys, my name is Kulin Kapadia, based out of Mumbai. We run an architecture interior design practice, mainly focusing on workplace design, and we've been around in the industry for quite some time now, and we've been delivering interior workplace projects for clients such as Facebook, LinkedIn, Sony, etc. And yeah, like I said, we're based out of Mumbai and run a mid-sized practice out of there, and concentrating mainly on workplace and new workplace strategies in the coming years. Yeah, thanks. Over to you.
Yep, thanks, Kulin. Just one more little point. How are you managing any non-work interests during this time? I remember you telling me about doing some marathons.
Unfortunately, I am a marathon runner, and I've been running on my terrace, and that's about it. I don't think I've ventured out. I tried to venture out once, but I got caught by the cops and was asked to go back. So I've been just running in my terrace, and it is frustrating, but then that's the way it is, and learn to live with it now.
Cool. Thanks a ton. So we also have from Mumbai, Vami Koticha. Vami, would you like to tell us a little about yourself for the attendees?
Vami, I think you're muted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Vami, we can hear you. Yeah, you might need to mute your video and audio.
Yeah, sorry. Hi, guys. Good morning, everyone. I'm Vami Koticha, and again from Mumbai, born and brought up here, a part of a boutique design studio called sP+a, and we practice out of Bandra. We at the studio actually actively engage in a very research-based, a collaborative and collective mode of practice. We do not believe that any of these 3 work in isolation, but we really look at all these individual 3 formats as streams feeding into each other. And I personally actually love working on tech-based research projects. Very, very passionate about what I do, and I really believe and I try that we can make a positive impact in whichever way we can. Whatever little balance time I have apart from this one passion of mine, I devote to my mental and physical well-being actually. So I'm a very avid follower of the Patna School of Meditation. And while I'm someone who's absolutely loving this quarantine time and I'm absolutely ready to make this my new normal, the only thing I'm missing is traveling around the world. So I'm looking forward to a wonderful, insightful morning with Vikram.
Excellent. Thanks, Vami. And I hope once everything settles, everyone can, restart their passions around travel. So we have also Sombat Ngamchalermsak joining us, and who's kind of virtually vaulted across from Thailand to collaborate with us. Sombat, would you like to tell us about how things are in your neck of the woods?
Yeah. Hi everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. Can you hear me? Can you hear my voice?
Yes, we can.
So my name is Sombat Ngamchalermsak. I'm a co-founder of Paperspace. So we are a interior design platform. We are only about 3 years old company, but we are operating in 3 countries, which is Thailand, Singapore, and Philippines. And this year we are moving to Mumbai.
Oh, excellent. Great news. Yep. And what's keeping you busy other than work?
Sorry?
I said, what is keeping you busy other than work?
My family. I mean,
Oh,
I have two worlds, like family's world and another world. Once I get off the office, I switch to like a daddy mode, just taking care of my little daughter.
Great stuff. And thanks, Sombat. Lovely to have you here. And we've also got Parag Warerkar, who's joining us from Delhi. Parag, hi.
Hi everyone, I'm Parag Warerkar and I represent MR Warerkar Associates, architecture and engineering company which was founded by my father, MR Warerkar. And we majorly work on industrial projects all over the country and Southeast Asia and Africa. We have been collaborating, of course, a lot with so many of our consultants because we need to work in so many places all over and can't be done without collaboration. So we have collaborators almost in each space that we work. We have done a few LEED Platinum projects and a few gold-rated projects. These days I'm concentrating on my health. So I climb about 12 floors in the morning, then I do some meditation and yoga, and it has been helping me quite a bit, and spend quite some time with the family also.
Great. Thanks, Parag. Thanks for taking our time. So my name is Vikrant Karandikar. I am an architect as well. Ran my own firm, then worked in the GIS and digital mapping industry for a long time before coming back to what I was trained for in architecture. And I currently head the key account management function at Trezi. Apart from that, I'm an injury-prone squash player, so try to keep myself at the court and outside the doctor's clinic, and at the moment kind of trying to see how I can keep myself busy and don't multitask too much with Netflix. So that's about it for me. Anyway, so let's get going. Before we dive into the topics, we'd like to just run a quick poll to see who's here. I can see that there's close to about 95 people already. So let's try and see what kind of backgrounds and people they are. So I'm going to keep the poll open for everyone right now. Which industry do they best represent? This is a bit of a webinar's equivalent of the MasterChef mystery box. We know there's 95, but we don't know where they are from at the moment. So it's good to, I'm keeping the poll on for the next, let's say 10, 15 seconds. The attendees request you to fill in the functions and the industries where you are from and where you work. It'll be great. So I can just see 3, 7. There's a few who've not yet put in their choices. Just give us a minute. That's 9, 18. Yep, I think we've got everything going. And okay, so if everyone can see the results, I am just sharing the results with everybody. We've got about 70% people from the profession. and then kind of mix between engineering, construction, and product manufacturing, roughly about the same, and also a few attendees from academia and some other industries not listed in the ones above. I hope everyone can see the results.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So with this, let's kind of dive straight into our topic, which is the first one, and basically about new ways of working. As the lockdown opens, what do we feel is going to, increase, decrease, stay the same? How are different ways of collaborating and working together likely to pan out? For the benefit of attendees, each of our panelists will be, able to respond to each of the 4 topics that we have today. And to kick things off, I'll request Kulin if he can, begin by sharing his views on, new ways of collaborating, especially after the lockdown opens. So, Kulin, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Vikrant. So just to begin with, in new ways of working and new ways of collaboration, what we did is that before we actually went out and proposed anything to the clients in under various industries, we said first let us look at ourselves internally. Let us look at an internal study to understand how we as architects, interior designers, engineers, consultants can deliver projects or can deliver our work more collaboratively, and how do we so we actually did an analysis of our projects in terms of deliveries, and figured out that more than 70% of our project we could actually deliver working away from home. So can I share my screen, Vikrant?
Yeah, Kulin, are you able to now get an option to present your screen?
I can. It's just I'm not sure whether it will. No, it's not. It's not allowing me to.
Okay.
One second. Hold on.
Yeah, take your time, take your time.
Can you?
Yep, it's coming through. Yep, you need to just select the one you want to share. Yep, perfect.
Yeah, you can.
Yep, I can.
Okay, great. Can you see the screen or?
Yes, it's
Okay.
coming through.
So what we did is that we took our typical projects, broke it up into various stages and various deliverables, right from the programming stage, schematic, design development, all the way to post construction. And what we did is that we kind of mapped out how much of deliverable on each stage could be done from home. And then what we realized is that you see the blue line is the 100% deliverable, the dark blue line. The light blue one is what we could deliver at home independently. So what we realized is that almost 70% of our work we could actually deliver from home. So when we are back to normal, we will try and incorporate these methods ourselves in our daily schedule, number one. Number two, we will need to stick to some kind of need-based meetings only that are pre-planned. What it also has helped us is it actually helped us hone our time management skills. Somewhere we realized that the entire team is operational, but managing the time of the team has been much better. Obviously, because travel time and all sorts of other impediments were kind of pushed out, so we did better deliveries during this time. and overall skill-based productivity has increased a lot. So depending on the skill the person had in the office, that productivity increased a lot. What we also did is, and it's a very simple kind of an exercise that we did, and it's valid for any industry, any client, any workplace. What we did is we took a project, we identified its stages, we identified its deliverables. Okay, basis these deliverables, we divided the deliverable into individual working and interactive working. Under interactive working, we said how much of that would be physical interaction and how much of that would be virtual interaction. And while we did this, and we mapped it against resources and mapped it with the deliverable, and what we realized is that only 30% of the entire work was physical interactive work. The rest could be either done by virtual interaction or individually delivered. So it's given us a big lesson, basically, to kind of where we are, and we actually have to stop and restart, relook at ourselves on how the practice of architecture and interior design now could be delivered in a completely different methodology. So yeah, so those are my thoughts on this.
Well, great analysis, Kulin. I mean, it's great to see how you looked at all the projects you guys are doing. So I know I was talking to Sombat earlier. Sombat, your practice also runs across 3 locations. What are your thoughts around this? How do you see things shaping up? Would you like to share your thoughts with the attendees?
Sure. So I just share my experience on doing this collaboration with my whole entire career path. So I was working in Singapore during 2000 to 2010 for 10 years. So during that time, it's only physical interaction, collaboration happened. So I have to be there in the office with the teams, like one-to-one. And then 2010, I flew back to Bangkok and set up my own firm. And then I have to fly to Singapore every 2 weeks to meet the client, to meet my team. So it's like fly. And then on 2015, I did the first Airbnb project in Beijing. So that is the first time that I doing a virtual collaboration with my client, because the project is happening in Beijing. I'm sitting in Bangkok. My partner is in Singapore, whereby the client is in San Francisco. The contractor is in Beijing, so it's all over the place. So the only way we can communicate is via video call, which is Zoom. So I'm using Zoom 5 years back. And the only time slot that matched to between 2 part of the world is my 7 a.m. in the morning, Bangkok time. So I have to send my boy to school and run to the car park, plug into my iPhone, and conduct the conference call, because there is no way for me to reach the office. So I keep doing that for 6 months to run the project. And the only time that I met the client in real person is the handover date after 6 months of running this virtually. So this whole new, eye-opening of doing collaboration. So I took that moment and built my new company recently, which is Paperspace. So as I mentioned, we are running Paperspace from 3 countries. And beside that, in each country, we are working with different design companies. So there is no way for us to be in the same place as physical anymore. So we using like multiple tools to collaborate between different countries and also different companies. And between our management team in 3 countries, we only meet once a year. So it's rotating in each country. So in 3 years, we only meet like 3-4 times maximum. And I think that the way forward from here is I think this is going to be a new norm for us. So the virtual meetup somehow will be a basic tools for everyone, especially after this COVID thing. But somehow, I believe that chemistry between face-to-face interaction still need, because you can't build the relationship via virtual. So the way forward collaboration will be a combination of virtual and physical, but somehow it is kind of like meld into one kind of process. That's my view.
Wow, great. I mean, it's very pertinent you talk about building relationships, and a lot of these happen face to face, because our profession is primarily around also interacting with clients, and while collaboration technology and everything will form the new normal. Vami, you've been in a boutique firm where I'm sure it's a very different way of working with customers. How would you like to see, and what are your views on how things will change given the kind of locations your work is happening, and how your team is working?
Yeah, Vikrant. So actually, as you know, tech has been a very integral part of our studio, not just post-COVID or during this quarantine time, but way before. We have been a firm that believes in research and using newer methods of presentation, design processes, all of that. So we have been using AR, VR, those kind of technologies. But before I kind of zoom in and really talk about the changes that are happening within the studio, if I may take a minute and just talk about the macro picture here and the kind of changes that we are expecting probably to happen at a much larger scale. I'll just give a small example. Basically, the embankment, the Victoria embankment that runs along the River Thames in London. It's such a quintessential London picture, right? And ever since, in one of the earliest postcards of Britain, if you will see this image of broad promenades and these gardens along the river. It runs for almost longer than a mile. So this embankment that is so hardwired in our urban consciousness is actually a product of a pandemic. It was during the 1850s where London and many actually cities suffered the cholera pandemic, and London, I think, lost more than a couple of thousand lives from what I remember. So this was actually one of the civil engineering marvel that was designed to carry out the wastewater from the city down into the river safely without allowing it to mix with the drinking water supply. So this is one of the examples how pandemic is definitely going to affect across all sectors of all industries. Like new zoning laws, the modern grid system that Corbusier has used in Chandigarh. All of these are results of pandemics. So while town planning was our response to sanitation during the 18th century, I believe digital infrastructure and development of digital infrastructure might just be the new sanitization, of our time. So, and this really questions the idea of proximity, because I know we've been having inward rural migration, especially in India. Let's take the case with India. And we have been looking at extremely dense urban centers, and that has been one way of flow of migrant labor over the past many decades now in India. But with this whole COVID thing, it probably questions the idea of proximity. It questions, it brings back the question that can you really decentralize and disintegrate or de-densify these urban centers? You are going to see already a huge number of people who are probably like affluent residents who are going to take the advantage of this remote working capabilities, move to smaller towns, which is probably a cheaper lifestyle but a higher quality of life. And so I definitely think that our time is going to be divided as BC and AC, like before COVID and after COVID. So definitely there are going to be changes right from the studio level to the macro planning level.
Sure. Yeah. I think a great comparison to how London was handling it way back. Parag, I'd like you to probably take a summary view and of course your views also on this particular topic, maybe going forward, and what your function is within your organization. and also probably like to request you to also then take on the next topic, if you may. So would you like to share your thoughts, and then we can dive into topic 2? Parag, can you hear me? I just saw a message that my voice wasn't coming through very clearly. So
I think I had muted myself. So
okay, okay, it's not only me then. Okay.
So we have been, using all these collaborative methodologies for quite some time, mainly because our projects are far-flung. One can't travel, all the time to project sites and for meetings with clients. And so we have been using various collaborative technologies for a long time. In fact, we have one client in Canada, and we virtually had no physical meetings with the client, and all our work, including training our staff, etc., for the specific work that needs to be done for the client, everything has been online. So so we've been kind of doing this online virtual collaborations for quite some time now.
Okay.
And in fact, at this point in time, virtually the entire team is working from home, and I mean, during this lockdown also, we've managed to sign up some really good projects. We in fact signed up about 5 good projects, and the team is working on various stages of those projects. Making presentations online to the clients and then coming back.
Wow, I mean, how busier can one get? Actually, which kind of takes me. Thanks everyone for very insightful views on how your respective experiences are shaping up in this stage and how you see it moving forward. Parag, if I could just ask you to stay on as we kick off topic number 2. As you said, you've been looking at working together, collaborative technology for a long time. How do you see this concept actually evolving? And a couple of things that came to my mind when I was putting all this together was, one, will the meaning of collaboration change? The media, the portability, the realism or immersiveness, and interaction with different stakeholders, both inside and outside our respective offices. Do you want to see how you might want to look at the way this evolves going forward?
I think for some of us, it's taken us by surprise, and we really, I mean, the speed at which the lockdown happened, we weren't really ready for this. So we had to move away from actual workstations to virtual workstations, and we're finding it slightly difficult even now. So I think what is happening right now is many of us are planning on how to go forward with the current problem. And a lot of things will change in the way that we have been used to working. And one of the things that will definitely happen will be how we issue documents. So currently we were used to issuing hard copies to sites and things like that. And so the contractors, the construction side will actually have to step up and train themselves to be more technologically advanced than what they are currently. I think it's going to take the construction industry a lot of doing.
Right. And also one of the things that one hears and reads about are things like the use of drones for site monitoring, the use of a simpler ways of communicating complex aspects of design to contractors who probably are one step removed from the prime contractor, the prime engineering firm, or the construction firm. But do you see something like this happening? And I'd like also Sombat to come in, because Sombat is also, classically at 3 different locations. So maybe Sombat, you might want to take a stab at this after Parag responds to the option of using drones or any other things that we see here, but probably not yet directly associate with the construction phases.
So I see in the long term, maybe a lot of automation coming into construction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we are already using a lot of parametric design tools for basically design and collaboration within the design community. But I think this going forward will also develop into a lot of automation within the construction industry. It'll the scale will change, the scale of automation will change, and it'll definitely lead to greener construction technologies, more efficient construction technologies.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yep. Thanks for that, Sombat. How do you see it moving? Certain aspects and places where you work have very different construction techniques and have their own challenges compared to where we are all based. Most of us, at least, attending this webinar in India.
Sure, I'm sharing from the design process point of view. Then, so when 20 years back, when I started working in Singapore, I couldn't speak like proper English actually, because I'm Thai. I only speak Thai. So the only tools or media that I use during 20 years back is my hand sketch. So I sketch like every day, like thousands of sketch for the past like 10 years in order to communicate what I have in my head to my boss, to my client. And then when the 3D things coming into the world, so I change from hand sketch to the 3D. So that is kind of starting to be technologies. And then recently, when I start Paperspace like 2017, I think I'm connect with my friend Scott, which is the Trezi CEO, and I happen to know that he's running this VR startup thing. So I flew all the way to Delhi just to test that experience by myself in Delhi. And I just kind of blown away with what I have seen in his office. So I took the gear, I bought a gear in Bangkok and adopted the VR thing to meet my company. And then I adopt that to Singapore's, my Singapore office as well. So what happened is recently we are pitching for a project in different countries. The team is working some time from 3 countries. So the concept team is working from Bangkok. The development team is in Manila, and the management team is in Singapore. So we use the file, which is a sketch of file, to share between three countries real time. We are that with VR from 3 countries together, and we make sure that everything's all right. And then on the next day, the Singapore team took the VR gear, present to the client. So I think the immersive kind of collaboration tools will become a new norm. I think the AR VR is going to be something that used to be like my hand sketch or the 3D. It's going to be a normal tools for the designers in a coming year.
Thanks, somebody. Sorry. Okay. Kulin, you and I were talking about something similar that you were, seeing in your organization, including, virtual tours and things. How are things happening at your end? With the concept of working together, how it evolved.
So see, a couple of things, Vikrant. One is that when we shut down, we just shut down with the technology that we had. which was limited, but at the same time, I think it helped us in whichever way to kind of deliver projects across the board at various stages. Um, and of course, what we realized is that there are a lot more collaborative options available now. And we've started already evaluating that, and we've already started kind of working towards that. Part of my team has already started training for some collaborative software, which will then eventually help us. Once we are back, it will actually help us gear up to a better working process. So that is one part of kind of design. I mean, just in terms of collaboration for what we've been doing. But I'd also like to just further comment on some of Parag's points, and where he was talking about construction sites and technology there. We are in fact we are taking one or two steps backward, and we are actually questioning the design, the construction methodology of projects, where we are looking at, and we are in fact, I'm just now as we speak, we are working on a paper which will evaluate the construction process itself, and I'm talking purely from an interior perspective at this stage, on 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 how one can minimize site labor, how one can use and select materials, how one can design spaces by use of minimal site labor, and trying to avoid labor on site as much as possible. I mean, just to give you an example, we delivered one project where there was no paint on the site, zero paint. Now you can imagine the amount of labor that would reduce. So one just needs to start thinking parallelly, start thinking in alternate ways on how one can adapt the design and work towards understand the construction process and try and work towards that. So yeah, those are some of my thoughts on this.
Yep. Thanks, Kulin. I think you're talking about reducing site labor is obviously one of the key things that we're planning to talk in topic number 3. And I know Vami was very interested in sharing how they might be able to contribute to that part of it. So Vami, would you like to take a stab at this particular aspect of how the collaboration aspects will evolve, and maybe then I'll ask you to continue and take up topic 3 as well.
Yeah. So I kind of agree with Sombat's angle on this, where tech has already been a very, very integral part of our industry since decades, and it continues to improve. Only thing that this COVID might do is it will act like a catalyst and probably accelerate this process of tech revolution in most companies or organizations. And every stage of project, like the design, the presentation, the execution, has use of technology embedded or collaborative methods embedded within that. For example, I mean, there are form finding software like Rhino and SketchUp and all of that. Apart from that, there is a lot of other analytical software like Grasshopper, Ladybug, etc., which become an integral part of the process of designing in a studio. Similarly, when it comes to presentation, what we used to do a couple of decades ago with 2D is now 3D realistic renders is now moved to AR and VR, and we are already using it as tools to present our projects to clients to give them a more immersive experience. Of course, right now they don't have gadgets. It's probably a desktop version in this current situation in the last couple of weeks. But I believe that's also a matter of time. I mean, just like mobile phones are now available everywhere, one day there will be these kind of gadgets available with everyone. And yes, every stakeholder, including the contractors on site, are now adapting to this technology, the technology, and they're using drone footage to kind of convey their doubts Actually a very apt way to put this is something would ask me, or like what really brought about the technical revolution in your organization? Was it a really good CTO, like a chief technical officer? I would say no. Was it a really progressive CEO? I would say no. And was it COVID-19? And I'll be like, yes, I think that was the one catalyst that allowed for this entire industry and every single stakeholder within the industry to adopt to this changing landscape. And actually, coming back to the other point that you were making, about using tech in slightly innovative ways. I mean, yes, of course, collaboration is one of the key factors, but I would just like to quickly share a couple of slides, if you don't mind.
Just a moment. Let me just make you the presenter, and you're good to go. One moment.
And sure, I just want
to... go on, Vami. I've just made you presenter.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So here, the intent is not to show a project, because that's not what we are here for. The intent is just to show an innovative use of technology within our industry, and just a couple of examples. So what you see here on the bottom right, I mean, here is a map of the world, obviously, but on the bottom right are these locally available bricks that were available in interior parts of Maharashtra. That became one of the factors to start determining how the project will move forward. It was a small children's library that we were doing, and this was absolutely beautiful quality of bricks. So this led us to some kind of research on how can we use this particular material, not just beyond its traditional use, where it is just used as a cladding material. And believe me, I'm talking about a brick tile, not actual brick, just a 22 brick tile. So typically it's used as a cladding material, and how can I take this material and push its limits and make it performative in many other ways? So this led us to research to Catalan molding systems that were done in the 18th century in Spain, which led us to more research about Eladio the SA was doing wonderful. These thin Catalan molds, cantilever Catalan molds in Uruguay in the 1970s, which led us to a software made in Switzerland by ETH Zurich, which actually generates, which actually learns from these two techniques and then computes millions of options and then generates a best option that is absolutely stable in its compressive state. So what we have done here is taken a very low-tech material coupled with a very high-tech software to allow us to generate something that we wouldn't have been possible without the collaboration with technology. And what I'm trying to emphasize, and another thing, I definitely believe that, necessity is the mother of all invention, but necessity coupled with frugality is the mother of all inventions in our case, at least. So this is what the formwork kind of looked like for that particular project. A very, very rudimentary way of plotting your X, Y, and Z axis as a grid. And this is, again, a very low-tech, simple skill laborers using those rebars as just formwork, temporary formwork, starting to lay those brick tiles. You can see how thin they are. And this is what eventually the world kind of looked like, completely de-shuttered. The rebars you can see peeling off, which were used as formwork. This is about 150 feet long, 25 feet wide. What I'm trying to say here is that this project would not have been possible without this kind of collaboration that has happened, not just across various geographies, but various time periods also. So what you're doing here is you're actually, while we are moving forward, we are also kind of looking backward. We are taking a local skill set, combining it with technology and allowing technology to modify it, to evolve it, to generate something better that wouldn't have been possible otherwise. A quick example, a lot of you all must have seen this. These are funicular floors by the Block Research Group. What they do over here is they basically map the stress lines and they design these concrete slabs, floor slabs. So typically in any building, about 50% of the dead load comes from your concrete slabs. And what this group claims is by designing the slabs like this, they reduce the amount of concrete by 70%, thus reducing your embodied energy in the project. And just one last example about using tech as a design tool is generative design. I mean, I think that's the future. It's really parametric design coupled with artificial intelligence, helping you to generate millions of options also analyzing the options for you in an ascending order from your worst to the best. All of this based on certain parameters that you as a designer and as a co-author of the project have prescribed into this algorithm. So this is Autodesk themselves, they generated the software, they used this generative technology and they came up with plans. Of course, I mean, this is many, 3-4 years back now, the office is up and running. They generated their flow plans based on certain parameters that they inputted, which they thought were important. What I'm trying to say here is that the computer is no longer just a place to, graph your project or even kind of register your materials or your geometry or your quantity, but rather it really becomes a co-author of the project, presenting multiple design alternatives, all based on the prerequisites and the premises that you have predefined as a designer. So I want to talk, I'll just summarize my thoughts here that what I'm trying to say is that this entire COVID should be looked upon as an opportunity to integrate tech within our design process, right from the first stage till the last stage, but in a very, very sensitive way, in a very, if I may use it, I'll use it as a tool to aid your processes rather than it becoming the final product itself.
Great. Thanks, Vami. I mean, very, very insightful things again. And I'll hold you to that thought about the computer becoming a co-author, and I'll come back to that a little later. But what everyone has said kind of almost reminds me of what Laurie Baker used to do, as in build using materials that were brought in from less than a few miles from the building site. That's the way you talked about the aspect of using the locally available bricks. Now, thanks for everyone's points on topic 2. Moving on to topic number 3, which is what Vami, I saw you talking a little about that, which is design process adaptation. And I'll set you off, and I'll invite Parag also to share his thoughts immediately after. Is about two words that you used, Vami, right now. One is necessity. The second is frugality. I think one of the key things that we will see as the world resumes work is a very, very cost-conscious set of customers and construction processes. Given everyone is not only playing catch-up with work, but also catch up with the economics of what will form the new normal. So that's one aspect. And the second thing which I'd like you to kind of also talk about is how do you see the overall aspect of education coming in and in the process of in the adaptation of design process. So Vami, again, could I invite you to just start off on this one, and I'll ask Parag to share his points, and then we'll go around to Sombat and Kulin, if that's fine.
Yes, Vikrant, thank you. I pretty much covered some part of what you're already talking about, the design process and the use of tech within that. The only aspect that I would like to talk about is the academia, and definitely one of the very, very important industries that anyways I think required a revolution many years ago, at least in India. And I'm hoping that this situation will only spearhead that entire revolution and will allow people to kind of pause, think and rethink and then reimagine how we take that ahead. Further details of those, I think I'll reserve to the last section. I think I'll move I'll pass the mic to Parag.
Okay, Parag, one thing I also see if you can throw some light on is adaptable buildings. And I know your practice does a lot of work on factories and industrial architecture, which also has an element of health and safety, adaptability, specificity on and efficiency of the production processes, etc. So would you like to add some of these elements into your thoughts on the design process adaptation aspects? Parag, are you there, or are you still muted?
Again, I myself. So
Okay.
yeah.
Right. No worries.
So yeah. So what I was saying is, our work, which we do majorly for industry, is very very fast paced, and usually doesn't really allow us to work out methodologies for adaptable kind of architecture. Yes, we do design passive elements, and we do design for flexibility within the envelope, but majorly in terms of any kind of adaptability of the building itself or the building exterior, we really have very very little scope on that.
Mhm. Thanks, Parag. Sombat, Kulin, what are your views? Basically, you see the way on how the design process and the time we are now likely to get as a profession to turn things into brick and mortar. How do you think they will move, given what we've heard from Vami, Parag, and of course your thoughts. Sombat, would you like to go first, and then I'll
Sure.
request Kulin to come in?
Yeah, I speak on the academic issue then. So I'm not sure about India, but in Thailand, I mean, from my view, the academic world seems to be separate from the practitioner world. I don't know why, but it's like the one who teach in school, it's just, they don't know what's going on in the real practice. So I think there's a lot of big gap from a young fresh student graduated and only know how to do conceptual, but doesn't know how to do construction, how details of the building is. So I think for me, the way forward is I'm not sure that the school will be there in the next 5 years, because right now people access to those knowledge from everywhere, and the degree might not be as important as like in the past. So I imagine that the practice will be done from the practitioner, which is the studios might come up with their own way of teaching the student, grab the young talent, teaching them with their own way, and then build the new wave of designer by not passing to the school. And this is what I guess.
Right. Yep. That's a way a lot of us learned way back in time. You actually got into the profession and learned hands-on and kind of added to what your curriculum was. Kulin, what's your experience about all this happening? A lot of what you've shared with us so far has been very analytical, in nature with the with the stuff you've done on your projects and seeing how they are panning out in the stage.
No, so just in terms of design process adaptation, what I would like to comment on is that if you look at various stages of the project, I think first and foremost, somewhere design process first of all will need to adapt to new bylaws which are bound to come in. To kind of to have rules and regulations revolving around occupancy rate per square foot, number of people, etc. We don't know what that would be, but there is definitely it is going to set new benchmarks and new data on that, especially in terms of how much per square foot per person one is doing currently to new workplaces. What would that be? So somewhere that whole real estate is going to kind of get reset. So that is the first part where we'll have to understand that before you actually get into a design process. Second would be like for any design process is concept, design, development, schematic, all of those stages. And somewhere there, I still feel I'm slightly old school. I still use pen and paper, but we've kind of adapted using pen and paper doing those sketches or whatever else, maybe on the iPad, maybe using the correct tools, and then transferring that information to the relevant teams. So that's an adaptation for me. And somewhere I feel that however old school, we will have to kind of rely on technology to move ahead. I mean, there's no two way about that.
Sure, sure,
Third
sure.
is in the actual design process and the construction process, one will have to be extremely cognizant of the choice of material and what kind of materials is one speccing into the project. And we'll have to take clues, especially from the healthcare sector, in terms of the correct and appropriate materials being used. And fourthly is construction methodology, which I kind of covered earlier as well, where somewhere as designers we will have to adapt to newer methodologies, which reduces site labor basically. So at various stages in the cycle of a project, one has an opportunity to make changes, to adapt to this new thing, and then move ahead. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
around.
great, 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 great. Glad you mentioned the aspect of, one second, my audio is again playing up a little bit. One moment. Just do that again. Yep. Well, now, Kulin, can you hear me? Yeah. So I'm glad you brought in the aspect of changes in bylaws, and they may not only be building bylaws, but they would also have riders around healthcare, health and safety, use of right materials, etc. So we'll have to see how that kind of plays out. We are just hitting the 60-minute mark, and we've got one more short topic to go through. So if I may just take a stop and request another poll to be, participated in by our attendees, which are, I think, now over about 120. I'm just putting this poll together. We've heard so far about our panelists talking about new ways of working after the situation eases up, the evolution of collaborative technology, and thirdly, how design process will adapt to meeting the new challenges our profession will and the construction industry will face. So the poll is up. It's basically about asking everyone what, in their individual opinion, is going to be the key driver for technology to help the AEC industry leapfrog. And it's there are four choices around productivity, safety and training, reduction of site labor, which is a bit of a double-edged sword, and also, of course, collaborative tech. So I see we've got about 53, 21, 42, 61. Yeah, I think we've got some people, I think, revisiting their choices right now, which is absolutely fair. So I'll just keep the poll on for another minute or so, and then we'll just share it, and then we move into the last topic for the day, since we're coming in past the 60-minute mark. So yeah, I think the poll question results are reasonably fairly static now for me to share. So this is what I think, if everyone can see the results. So I think more than half are talking about collaborative technologies, mobile tech, BIM, etc., coming through with the productivity tools leading in second position, so to speak. Off-site construction, which in a way also ties in with the reduced site labor. So while we are on this, would Kulin, Parag, Sombat, Vami, any of you like to comment on what we see purely as attendee feedback onto the session so far? Anyone would like to go first?
Kulin.
Yep, Kulin. Yep, you're the man.
So just you want me to comment on the poll?
Yeah. The way the audience has kind of responded to what we've talked about, what they've heard, and obviously they have their own viewpoints as well.
So key driver to technology leapfrogging in the AEC industry, 53% is saying collaboration, which of course it's still changing. I don't know why it's still dynamic, but
Yeah, I'm also doing this for the first time. So anyway, it's roughly we are at the 50% mark plus. So.
I think yeah, more. I mean, I am in agreement in terms of I would say the way the rating has come in, that 50% collaboration, and then productivity, safety training, and site related stuff is 10 and 7%, which I think again, because I think the maximum number of people on this particular session are architects, designers, etc. So for them, definitely, in terms of a design process, definitely, I mean, collaboration becomes a major tool. So I think it is in alignment to what our discussions have been as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Kulin. So let's go straight into topic number 4 in that case, which is the last topic for the day. I mean, what and how would you share your thoughts and advice to new talent in the profession? We had a few of them, with about 10% people from education and academia who are in the audience today. And also, I'm sure a lot of the people from the profession also, will rely on, good upcoming talent in the profession to carry it forward. What are your thoughts? And maybe we could just go around the order, I guess, in alphabetical order. Kulin, Vami, Sombat, and Parag. I guess I will request you to put forth your views after everyone has, if that's fine. So Kulin, anything from your side? I remember you and Vami had kind of alluded to this a little while back.
No, so my my advice to new talent is one thing, especially see, technology does not think for you. Okay, so somewhere, and I've been kind of facing that kind of challenge internally in our offices as well. That use technology as a tool to enhance and simplify your work. The technology is not going to think for you. I mean, still the hand is kind of connected to the mind. So somewhere, please use your hands, your fingers. Please kind of draw up things, do your sketches, do whatever has to be done, and then use technology to enhance and simplify it. And don't don't use technology as a tool to complicate things further. I mean, that's like a simple message to the young talent that is coming out. Use technology in the appropriate way.
Thanks, Kulin. Well said. So Vami was talking about computers becoming co-authors. What are your thoughts, Vami? I know you have a lot of young guys working in your company. So how does that work, and how do you see this panning out? What are your thoughts then?
Yeah, I don't think I can agree more with Kulin. I completely agree with what he's saying, and especially now moving forward, we are going to have an influx of digital infrastructure in every possible thing that you do. So it is very, very important that we, just the way we lead a healthy lifestyle to take care of our bodies, we need to lead a healthier digital lifestyle, if I may say, so that it doesn't really start controlling you, but you still keep the control within your hands and use that technology as a tool to aid your processes. Like we say, an idea cannot be dreamt of, but it should be developed into. So that process of developing the idea is where your tech really becomes a tool. And a sensitive and a sophisticated use of that tech should be one of the biggest parameters in every decision that you make as you're moving forward. So yeah, the healthier digital lifestyle, I would say, is my advice to the younger generation.
Yep. Thank you, Vami. That kind of ties in with the way you described your personality and non-work interest that's happening these days. Sombat, you talked about people in your area kind of working and learning on the job. So how do you see that happening? What would be your thoughts and suggestions to people who are joining the design profession?
So my advice will be, I mean, you have to learn the next century skill, which is a soft skill. I mean, the hard skill, doing designing, programming is you have to be there, but somehow the skill that, talking about collaborative, creativity, critical thinking, I think this is something that's much more important in the next coming year. And then I think you have to be very adaptive to, whatever is going to happen in future, because no one knows, like this pandemic thing is coming from nowhere, and then everything changed. So if you are too static, I mean, you can't survive. So you have to be very adaptive to the world. And the last thing is try to be to learn in like a T-shape. I mean, you know, like very deeply in your expertise, whether you are architect, engineer, or whatever. Somehow you have to have knowledge of something else, which is like economics, or marketing, or those things which is not your expertise, but it equip you to live in a new world.
Yep. Thanks, Sombat. I think I particularly agree with the critical thinking and adaptive, or the adaptive nature, the adaptability. Parag, you've been around way longer than all of us, if I may, use that respectfully.
So I would like to talk about something slightly different.
Excellent. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So when we are young and we have so many good ideas, and if we have a really good idea which we want to make it take birth, we always have had to wait for a good client to come along and agree to our ideas, and then we start seeing it come to reality.
Mm-hmm.
Things have radically changed now, and somebody who has a good idea need not wait for that elusive client to come along, and they should definitely try going for crowdfunding and maybe turn into entrepreneurs and get the project done themselves. The idea can be made to fruit without really involving a client per se.
Yeah, crowdfunding design. Yep, that's definitely a new way of looking at it. Yeah, true. Because product design does tend to get crowdfunded. But that's very apt. Yeah. Okay, so that kind of brings us to the end of the 4 topics that we had planned. We are a bit ahead of time, but we still have a few minutes for some questions, if I may. So I'll just run through the list of questions, and there's a few that have come through over the course of the discussion. And I'll just, in no particular order, I will just pick up a few that we have time for right now. Kulin, there seems to be one which is addressed to you, which says that, which talks about minimizing labor. And it's more around seeing what is like the, I guess, the fine line between looking at how much labor can be minimized in a condition and a location like India, and what kind of skills they can gain on the other hand, if we are looking at social distancing continuing and labor also reducing. So that's something. So what points would you like to highlight that can work this in a careful way?
Sure. So
and this is from Himanshu Sanghani.
My whole take on this is that minimize labor on site does not mean that reduce work for the laborer. It does not mean that. I think there's some misunderstanding there.
Yeah.
What my thought is that on a site you reduce the number of labor does not mean that that labor does not work. He works off site. That's the intention. It's like if you look at like, let's say, a Mercedes car. A Mercedes car is made up of a kit of parts. More than 90% of the Mercedes is made outside the factory, and the last 10% is kind of assembled together on the actual on its actual factory. So similarly, why can't we look at interior projects where 90% of the project is built off-site, and then for the last 10%, it can just come and be assembled on-site. So that way it helps reducing and minimizing labor on-site. It does not still remove people of their jobs. I'm not
Right.
saying it's just kind of bifurcating or putting people into various. So if there is a contractor, the contractor can get some of the work done off-site rather than doing everything on-site. So that is where I my thoughts.
Sure. In fact, I would like to add, there's a documentary I recently saw called Print the Legend. It talks about how 3D printing may eventually move into the manufacturing industry, especially for small parts and rubber parts and things, which form a lot of aspects of putting it all together, whether it's in the interior design space or something else. So that's also something which on one side you look at it, it's taking away some work from site, but at the end, like you said, Kulin, it's also being able to have the same people work off-site more safely in a more controlled environment, and actually getting things done faster and better at site. So I guess the turnaround time improving. There's one.
Not only
sorry.
I'm saying not only turnaround time, but actually you look at it as an opportunity where you can even improve the quality of finishing on a site, because
Right.
people are not banging into one another, and in terms of work processes also, they are kind of everything is happening offsite, and then you just come on site and do what you're supposed to do. So in fact it helps deliver better quality projects is what my thoughts are. And in fact, just now, like I said earlier, as we speak, we are currently doing a kind of a paper just to understand the use of newer materials that can be or materials that can be used in interior projects, which will advocate this factory finished design.
Yep. Thanks, Kulin. I absolutely agree with you on that. There's one question coming from Neeraj, which I guess it's open to all the panelists here. Do you think the architecture practice can become totally virtual in the coming days? And would an architecture community welcome that? So it's a very blue sky question, and anyone who'd like to take a stab at this one? It's come from Neeraj.
Okay, I'll
Sombat?
start.
Yeah, okay, yeah, Kulin, you start. Yep.
I think it cannot become totally virtual. There's no way it can become totally virtual because we are still from an industry which has a part of touch feel, a tactile feel to it. We still need to touch, feel a few things. So somewhere at some stage, and rather at every stage in the process of architecture, there will be some physical interaction. And but it cannot be 100% virtual. And like I said, like we did an internal study, 30% is physical, but 70% can definitely become virtual.
Mm-hmm. Sombat, would you have any thoughts to share on this question?
Yeah, totally agree with Kulin. I mean, the virtual thing will help us to minimize travel, but based on my experience, I can't design project if I'm not meeting the client, because I mean there's a lot of things that you cannot communicate via text or pictures. You have to sit with the person, get their feeling, get their like hidden message. So that's my work. So there'll be some point that we have to meet, like a human in person. Like for my team now, which I mean in Bangkok, you have option to work from home, or you can come to the office. So I get my guy to work from home for like 2-3 weeks, and then they couldn't take it. So they choose to come to the office like 2 days a week, just to meet a real human, to live. So there'll be a combination of physical and virtual for sure.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Parag, Vami, would you like to add anything to this? Otherwise, maybe I can throw in my 2 bits.
I agree with Kulin. I mean, one of the major things that we definitely need is the tactility. We need to feel. So it can never be 100% virtual. We can get to do a lot of things virtually, but ultimately there are some things which need to be tactile. I mean, which we can't do away with.
So I agree. Vami, anything you'd like to add on this?
No, we can move to the next question.
Okay, so my thought around this with an architect's hat on is yes, definitely our industry and our design, our profession does need the tactile aspect of it, whether it's with a client or a product manufacturer or its side. Definitely, there's no way we can get away from that. But with more and more, let's say, location distancing, and I'm not talking about social distancing here, but the way all our projects and our work is spread out, I guess there will be clear ways of how the practice will become virtual. The profession will still need its connect in having the necessary touch points throughout the design life cycle. Be it like I remember Kulin mentioning a little while back about choice of materials, understanding aspects about the client's requirements, like Sombat mentioned, the nuances about understanding design. So maybe from a technology point, yes, we may have more and more virtualization, like the IT industry did at one time. But yes, we will still need to be connected. Then there's one more question. 1 second, let me see. Would request for more insight on the ways execution can be taken in the collaborative environment. I remember Sombat mentioning something about this when he was talking about his projects in Beijing and various locations. And I think, Parag, even your projects, in locations as distant as Africa and all that, is there anything else you'd like to add? I mean, the question is to request more insight on the ways and suggestions how execution can be taken care. This is from Rahul at Dinova.
So I think Kulin has already addressed this particular aspect of it. So you see a lot of fabrication, etc., can be done off-site. So you have material or components which are ready to be used at site. So all that can be done off-site to reduce the work that is done on-site. And to get better results too. So I think a lot of planning is required at the execution level,
right?
And, and of course BIM is one of the technologies which allows all this to happen. I mean.
So I guess it's about improving the amount of predictability that will help make the connect between construction and execution and technology. I guess it's all about improving the predictability of outcomes that makes it better when you use technology with it. Okay, so we've got about a shade over 5 minutes, 7 minutes left. There are questions still pouring in, so I will need to probably take the remaining 5 minutes to just go around the table, and while I'll share with the questions and answers by grouping them with the attendees a bit later. If I could just request everyone to just go around the table and share any closing remarks, and then I can summarize anything that we've missed out. Yeah, Kulin, Vami, Sombat, and Parag, could we go in this order?
No, my closing. I don't know whether it's a closing remark, but I think my thought process is I would just break up. If you're talking architecture, interior, construction, whatever, I think just break it up into 3 simple categories of what was existing. Look at some kind of solutions that are immediately possible and then look for a way forward. I mean, obviously, solutions are going to be developed over a period of time. It's not like there are answers in black and white, but I think take clues from what was existing and how it can be bettered, and try it out in smaller batches, in smaller projects, or in smaller processes, and see what works, and then move to the next. Rather than so there's not like one size fits all. I mean, everybody have to kind of come up with their own methodologies and own processes to find appropriate solutions. So that would be my take on the whole thing.
Right. Thanks, Kulin. Yep. I kind of concur with that. Sombat, sorry, Vami. Any closing thoughts from your side?
Yes, Vikrant, as in, there can't be one solution for everything, and that would just make the world so boring, right? Building a resilient practice, I think, is the way forward. I mean, everybody is talking about resilient being the new keyword, whether it's economy of the country or whether it's your global supply chain. Everything needs to get a little more resilient, and TCS has already spearheaded this revolution of, kind of working from home with what they've done in the last few days about, allowing 25% workforce to come to office. So what this is doing is it's basically making the process of TCS or any organization for that matter very resilient and less risky and less prone to any of these external factors. So now, as Kulin said, whether it is about improvising on your integration of BIM and your projects so that there is no loss of information when your drawings reach the site, and hence reducing the margin for error or anything going wrong in the execution. Maybe a solution for somebody, and maybe another solution for somebody is better monitoring through, I don't know, tech or projects like drone or anything like that, whether it's about better monitoring. Each one will have its own solution, but the main fundamental idea being that build a resilient practice that can allow for adaptation to any external factor.
Yep. Thanks, Vami. Sombat, thoughts from your side?
My thought is, I think talking about this pandemic thing, right, the COVID-19, I think coins had 2 sides. You can take this, crisis as a crisis, or you can take it as an opportunity. So I think this might be a good time for everyone to rethink about what have been done in the past and rethink what is going to be in the future. And if you can crack that code, I think what will happen after this, maybe your new business, your opportunity to move forward. So looking forward for the new future after this pandemic.
Sure. Thank you, Sombat. Thank you, Parag. Hi, Parag. You muted?
No.
Okay.
It was showing me that the audio has been switched off due to some.
Okay. No, my video has been switched off for some time.
Yeah.
So. Yep. So,
So,
any closing thoughts, Parag?
yeah. I mean, I feel the key things are technology, teamwork, and collaboration. These are the key things going forward. And we need to use technology efficiently for working as a team and collaborating with others. So
Sure.
that's the key forward.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. So as we kind of come to the end of this webinar, firstly, just I'd like to add my two bits. One is as we move into and continue with the new normal, one of the things we will need to do is I'll just add to the three points that you made, Parag, at the end, to make our solutions and our ways of working and more sustainable. And again, borrowing from something what Vami said, resilience and probably risk-free or risk minimized, and seeing this as an opportunity. While we don't want an event like this to happen again, but nobody can predict the future. But like Sombat said, use it as an opportunity to see how we can make the organizations nimble and able to course correct at very short notices. My thanks, sincere thanks to all members of the panel, Kulin Kapadia, Vami Koticha, Sombat Ngamchalermsak, and Parag Warerkar for taking out your time and joining us today. Also, great thanks, huge thanks to all the attendees that have joined us at one time. I think over 125. There are still a few questions pouring in, and we'll try and get a set of grouped answers back. The webinar will also be available to download. I will share links to the registrants, which I guess will happen automatically. Otherwise, we'll share a link on how they can access that. So thank you, everyone, again. Stay safe, stay at home, and look forward to seeing as many of you in person once all this is over and we are back on track. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. It was...
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.